So, welcome to the WIPAC podcast live from WEX Global. I'm here with Enrique Cabrera of the University of Valencia and the Vice President of the International Water Association. We're here at WEX Global and one of the themes is digital transformation. So Enrique, what's your thoughts on the whole digital transformation initiative?
Well, it's really happening, isn't it? It's I discussed with some of my colleagues in the industry, and right now, it's changes are happening at such a pace that there's not a month or even a week that you don't hear a new thing going on. I think it's fascinating, and it's really going to help us to rethink how we want to go about managing water services. In that respect, I think that it's really interesting. At the same time, I think that we need to keep our eyes on the ball and still think about water and not just zeros and ones.
I suppose the whole digital transformation is a tool for the industry to change the way it operates.
I think it's definitely a wonderful set of tools, and the fact that many of those tools are coming or are being developed from people outside the industry, it's very good, it's refreshing. It means that some people are thinking outside the box, which is always nice. And I think we have some sort of responsibility of figuring out how we can get the maximum out of these tools and how we can use them with the problems that we have right now in the industry, which might be sustainability. We have all the issues about scarcity. So in some way, yes, I think that we need to keep thinking about them as tools, but these new tools could really change the way in which we manage our services, which hasn't changed much in the past decades.
I know some of the subject that's just been discussed in the engineering forum was breaking down the silos. A lot of the data that we've got in the industry is in asset management, in water, in all the different silos within the businesses, and one of the ways of looking at is breaking down those silos and using data more efficiently.
Absolutely. I think that the word is integration, right? I think that one of the things that has really happened recently is that there are new tools out there are new concepts that are really helping us to integrate all of those different data that are lying there in systems that maybe sometimes were set 20 years ago. But it's not just about the systems. I think that the organizations are also arranged in silos, and you often find that Department A doesn't talk to Department B, and the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. And I think that we have the opportunity now with digital, with all these tools being integrated in these great dashboards, where you can see all of the system at once, that finally those departments actually start talking to each other and thinking together about the future, because when you push one lever on one side, it actually affects the other side. So I think that really we need the tools, but we also need to rethink about how we manage the services. And so I think it's an organizational transformation that is also needed to go along with the digital transformation.
So it's more about, yes, it's the technology, but it's the people and it's the whole system approach as well. I think the systems approach, it's been around for decades, but do you think it's coming into its fruition now?
I think that the system approach has been there for a long time, but we haven't been that great at implementing it, right? So let's talk, for instance, about managing the assets. So it's great. So right now we've got great technology that actually will tell us when we expect, a pipe to fail in some way. But now the thought is, well, if we have to change that pipe, how does that reconcile with the fact that we need to renew the network, but we also need to change the layout or the design to go better with climate change, or that we need to actually talk to other services in the city. So renovation actually doesn't happen because the pipe is broken, but rather because we have to change a road, which is more expensive. So everything needs to happen at the same time. And I think that that's the systems approach that I'm referring to. The good thing about digital is suddenly it was back, not that long ago, we had to look at very different sources, screens, but also paper, or talk to people. And right now we're bringing all that information together, and we can actually think only in one set on how to make the decisions.
So do you think we're moving towards the smart city concept more than anything?
I hope so.
Because I visited, I was sitting in the City of Valencia, and I visited the digital twin for water. And to me, I've struggled with the concept of digital twin, understanding what the difference between the digital twin and an operational model is for a water network. I think that for me it came into its fruition when I saw everything yesterday of, yes, it's almost second by second, minute by minute, day by day, which is to me it's a true rendition of the digital twin for a water system. But it came across that, yes, you had to have the instruments, they had to be installed properly, you had to know your uncertainties. And that's, I think, probably some of the technical bit of the digital twin that a lot of people may forget, that, yes, you've got your visualization and analytics, but underlying all of that is all your sensors, telemetry, and everything else.
To be honest with you, I also struggle with the concept that the digital twin is something different from a model. I think it's just the evolution, the natural evolution with all this new sensor technology, the better communications, the actual processing capacity that we have now to actually have basically minute by minute, second by second information on how the system is. But again, that's wonderful tool, but unless we have people actually using that tool to make decisions that have an impact on the service, it doesn't help that much. A great example for this will be the old geographic information systems that were developed, maybe 20 years ago. And in my experience, I've seen many places where they set up one of these, and suddenly they weren't using it to do anything actually useful. And what we saw in the later years was that many people did not update those systems. They were really not used to their full potential. And that's exactly, I think, the same lesson that we should learn for the new digital tools, the digital revolution. Tools have to come for a purpose. We need to have strategic thinking before we choose the right tools for what we want to do. And I think that what you saw yesterday, the digital twin, is a great example of this. It has enormous potential, but we need really to understand what we want to do with it before we just start setting it up.
It's kind of the incremental innovation approach. It's developing. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, yes, Draftsman, and yes, then the AutoCAD revolution, then 3D AutoCAD. And now I'm seeing more and more we're moving into BIM for water. So looking at everything holistically, and I suppose that's exactly the same with digital twins and operational models. It's that incremental innovation that's happening.
I agree, and then we have to remember there's two speeds to this, right? So there's the early adopters that are doing all these great things. You have a significant chunk of the industry who are very traditional and might even look at these things, like the latest fad or the fashion. And so how good is really this going to do for them, right? And I think that we also have the responsibility to put everything in context, saying, no, look, we're not changing you we're not telling you to change completely the way you do things, but now the same way you started using, operational models 20, 30 years ago, now there's this new tool, and imagine all that you could be doing. And I think that one of the greatest challenges is to actually take this revolution into the smaller cities and take it to low and medium income countries where I would agree that there's a tremendous potential for this, because you can now get a lot of information with virtually no infrastructure set up for getting that information, right?
It's true.
So I think it makes water management more democratic, all these tools. I think we can be more efficient, but at the same time we really have to keep an eye, as I said, on the ball, that they are tools for a purpose, and in the end we need to just provide good service to the people.
I think it's a discussion that's going to happen quite a lot going forward, and of course next month we've got the IWA Digital Water Summit. What are your hopes and drives for that summit?
Well, I think, again, a lot of the ideas that we've been discussing, right? So I know there are quite a few events out there which are extremely interesting on digital water, but in IWA we're all about bringing these different constituencies together. So it's not just the utilities or the solution providers, but it's also consultants in the academia and the administration as well. So I think that this event will be different in a way that I hope that the whole water sector is represented there, that we can bring some of these people up to speed with what's happening, but at the same time it's a great meeting point for utilities. IWA has a very large constituency of utilities. Bring the utilities, not just the leading edge utilities, but also those that are thinking about implementing digital solutions with the best solution providers out there. So they have a time to sit down, talk, discover what's out there. So I think it's going to be a really interesting event.
It's going to be a brilliant forum, and I think one of the challenges the industry does have, and I saw it in the past, is the relationships between the universities and the utilities and the solution providers. How do we encourage that even more?
Well, I mean, you have to bring them together at the same place at the same time, right? Otherwise, I think we all need to make an effort. I'm from a university, but we do quite a little bit of R&D and consultancy. And for me, the secret is you have to take the extra step towards the middle, the gray area, right?
Yeah.
I think many times the problems is, when, private companies think of academia as very theoretical, but we have nothing to contribute to practical application of things, or the other way around, academics thinking about, R&D companies as being too commercial or not scientific enough. I think we just all need to go a little bit more into the middle, and I think there's gains for everyone. So it's important to have all the actors there.
I must admit, I've seen that quite recently, where WIPAC is hosting a webinar on serious gaming tomorrow with Mehdi Curry of the University of Exeter, and I first met him at CCWI in September, and he was talking to me, and I didn't understand where he was coming from the research and development point of view. But then I chatted to him afterwards and went, oh wow, actually serious gaming, which is something probably the water industry's never thought of, is something that can really help with customer services. So I suppose it is seeing that application. A lot of the work on artificial intelligence, artificial neural networks, is done at the universities.
Yes.
And it's the practical application of that within the water companies and the supply chain that's difficult almost to grab hold of and see where it fits in. But it's incredibly valuable.
It works both ways, because one of the challenges for us at the universities is actually understand the real needs, of people out there doing the work, in the ground. So sometimes research is such that you may research things that are not really that useful, at least not on the short term, right? So there's applied research which is more useful on the short and medium term. Some other research is more useful in the long term. So the fact that we can sit together and talk, and suddenly we have a conversation like the one we're having right now, and for a researcher to understand what are the immediate needs, I think it might change completely the way this person looks at the work that they're doing. So I think it works both ways, and it is very important for the industry to know about the latest research, but also it's very important for the academia to learn about the latest needs of the industry.
I agree, because there was a researcher at the University of Exeter who I came across under David Butler, who was looking at using a process-based control approach to wastewater treatment, not just the works itself, but the system. Mm-hmm. And I always remember a presentation she did for me at a workshop I was hosting, and it was, well, actually we can treat water to a better quality for less money. And you're just going, and actually I believe it's about 10 years away. And there's a lot of research that's being done at the university that I would say is for 5 or 10 years' time.
I mean, and I have to put out a word from my academic colleagues. I mean, our job is to actually be in touch with everything new that's happening. And I have to say that with this new digital revolution, this is becoming a little bit more difficult, because some of the exciting things are not happening in research papers or in publications. You actually have to join these events to meet the solution providers that are developing also very cool stuff. But I do have to say that the industry should regard researchers, especially researchers with a little bit of an applied mind, as people that want to keep in touch with the latest developments. We have the time, that is our job, and so for us it's quite easy to have a very nice overall view of what's happening. I think we can contribute to the debate quite a bit.
I think that's the importance of the Digital Water Summit, is actually learning what the needs are, learning what the research is, and probably we can move a lot quicker as a result.
Yeah, I mean, and then you have to think about the history of IWA, right? IWA was the result of the merger of two associations, basically an association of scientists, of academics, an association of water utilities, and they came together in IWA, and I think that that's one of the key factors for the success of the association. So we just need to keep working at that, bringing together the people that push harder in the research side, but also the people that are using those results for the services.
Absolutely, and that's probably the point of the Digital Water Summit next month.
Yes, and I really hope that we'll have a lot of people there. I really do hope that we'll be able to get a new type of event, which is not so academic as a conference, but it's more B2B. We have people engaging in the really useful discussions that can move digitalization forward for the water industry.
So, thank you very, very much for this podcast. Look forward to the IWA Digital Water Summit next month. I'm certainly going to be there, and I think probably we're going to be doing some more podcasts and webinars and everything else, so it'd be interesting to see what the discussion is there.
And it's been an absolute pleasure, and for those of those that are listening that are coming to Bilbao, I can say that of course the event will be fantastic, but Bilbao is also a place very nice to be in. I think we'll have a great social program as well, and of course I'll be delighted to join you in one of your podcasts. It's been really interesting.
It's going to be a great event. Thank you.
Oliver.
Thank you.